Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's doing fine. Um, I wanted to go through um, this this thing. It's a personal relationship thing with God, and it's about whether or not you know, or if we want God to help us out, then it stands to reason that we should also listen to what He has to say. Okay, I have a couple verses already in the description. Okay, in Hebrews, let me see if I can screen share here first. Okay, so so Hebrews, yeah. Today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Um, you may or may not know that I was schizophrenic and I would hear voices, and I no longer have the symptoms of that, and it took years for me to get over it. But it it's still true that God does speak to people. God does speak to everyone, and even the unbelievers, even the atheists, they God speaks to them, and they, of course, don't listen. And you know, but they do listen to lying spirits talking in their head all day long, as I would say, and all the lies they believe, things that are true, things that they're told, and they do what they do based on what they believe, based on things they've heard other people say, basically. So, but it is true that the Spirit of God is sent to everyone, and the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit would be to reject the Holy Spirit that's sent to you. So it says today, if you hear you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts, as when they provoked me in the wilderness. Okay, as you did in the rebellion of Korah. The ones rebelled, the ones that left Egypt, that Moses led out of Egypt. Okay, I guess the point that I would like to make would be, if you want God to hear you in your time of need, it stands to reason that you would also hear Him as He speaks to you. And in other words, it has to do with the conviction of the Holy Spirit and persuasion of the Holy Spirit. If we um, follow the leading of the Holy Spirit, of course, we know that if we, by the Spirit, put to death the deeds of the body, we will live. If by the Spirit, um, we'll be sanctified. If you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. So that's how you are saved. Salvation is through sanctification by the Spirit, believing what is true. And everything is by His power. Everything is by the power that comes from God, so that He is glorified. So if you're able to do something right or good, it's because God convinced you, and it was reasonable for you to do what's right, and you were able to choose to do what's right by the power that God gave you. And of course, the same way that He told Cain, you must master it, sin, its desire is for you, and you must master it. We can see that we have the power to choose to do what's right, and we must be able to choose to do what's right. We must have the will to choose to do what's right. And of course, it's by the conviction of the Holy Spirit, the convincing of the Holy Spirit, and He knows how to save the godly from temptation. There's another verse like that. He knows how to rescue the righteous, and He's able to keep you from falling. Um, but I wanted to do a little word study on this about hearing the voice of God. I think there's a scripture that says you will hear a word behind you. Okay. Of course, this is Isaiah. This is the prophecy, prophetic book of Isaiah. The Lord will give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, but your teacher will no longer hide himself. With your own eyes you will see him, and whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear this command behind you. This is the way, walk in it. Okay, that's important. So God does speak to us, and He says, this is the way, walk in it. And He gives us good reason to walk in it. And the thing is that the problem is that with our mind, we forget a lot. So every reason that we had to do what was right, we tend to forget, which is a command of God. It's another command of God too. It's one of the 613 commands that isn't there in the 613 commands, or 14, whatever number it is. And it's an actual command. It says, do not forget. But when they added up the commandments, they forgot to include that commandment. But it's true, because that's why you have to walk by faith. You have to walk by faith because you tend to forget all the reasons why you should do what's right. And then later you'll remember, oh yeah, yes, if I didn't do what was right, I could have got a disease or something, because at the time you're not thinking straight. So what you have to do is just by faith do what you know is right, and if God tells you something to do it, And then you will remember all the reasons why that God showed you is a good reason to do what's right. And one of the reasons is to have great joy. One of the reasons is to be blameless. And one of the reasons is not to be ashamed. So all these reasons we tend to forget when we come into temptation. And of course, the temptation is because of our own lusts. We're taken aside or by our own lusts when we're tempted, which is another verse. Okay. Okay, each one is tempted. Each one is tempted by his own evil desires. He is lured away and enticed. Okay. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. So you can't blame God for your own temptation, your own lust. But each one is tempted when by his own evil desires he is lured away and enticed. Let's read another translation here. But each one is tempted when he is carried away and enticed by his own lusts. Each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. So this is the work in our hearts that the Holy Spirit is doing, so that we're tempted and drawn away by our own desires. Okay, so this is the problem right here, our own desires, and this is what has to change. So we do what we do because we believe it's a good thing to do for one reason or another. And just like the Adam and Eve, they saw the fruit of the tree, that it was good to eat, and they forgot that God said, apparently forgot that God said not to eat from the tree. So, atheists have a problem with this. And we were talking the other day, why did God allow them to eat from the tree? And then I think it was Shadow Dancer Jesse that brought up the idea that well, in spite of all the difficulties and everything of having your children, you wouldn't go back and not have your child again. I mean, after having the child, even regardless of the circumstances and situations, you wouldn't want to go back and not have that relationship with your child. And which I thought was pretty good, which is kind of the same thing. And of course, there's probably many, a whole lot of things that we forget as to what could be the reasons that God allowed us to sin. One of them, which I asked the person at the time, was, well, do you or do you not want to have a free will? And of course, the person will say, yeah, I want to have a free will. Okay, then what are you complaining about? And if sin is such a problem, why are you a sinner? I mean, it's really not so hard to understand. I mean, if evil is such a problem, why are you evil? You know, it's not God's fault. Why blame God for what you choose to do? And if you do what's right, you're not afraid of anything. You are literally not afraid of anything when you're right with God because you have nothing to fear because you know you're doing what God wants you to do. And that goes for us when we're telling the truth. We don't fear any atheist because there is no knowledge, there is nothing against the knowledge of the truth. Let me see. We got to find that verse here. Hold on. Okay. Let's see if I can find it. It's kind of escaped my mind a little bit. I don't know if I have the right one here. There's a couple of them here. I'll look at each one. For we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. Okay. And the weapons of our warfare are not weapons of the world. Instead, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We tear down arguments and every presumption set up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Okay. Be ready to punish every act of disobedience. So we aren't afraid of what the truth might be. I think there's another verse. There is no knowledge against the knowledge of God. Okay, casting down imaginations, every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to obedience of Christ. I think it's still not exactly what I was looking for because it's kind of an obscure verse. I can't even think of the wording right now. But that just means that we have to study some more, I would say. Let me just look over here, see if there's any. No, there's no corresponding verses. Any corresponding verses? No, not there. Okay. Let's go through some of these here. The proud look of a man will be humbled, and the loftiness of men brought low. The Lord alone will be exalted. Is not my word like fire, declares the Lord, like a hammer that smashes a rock? Okay, the proof of this ministry provides that saints will glorify God for your obedient confession of the gospel of Christ and for the generosity of your contribution to them and to all the others. Okay, he showed strength. Yeah, maybe it's in the Psalm somewhere. Here's Lord away. Um. Anyways, there is nothing. There is no knowledge above or able to counteract the knowledge of God. There is no knowledge higher than the knowledge of God. Anyway, see what's going on. We got peoples. How's everybody doing? Okay, let me see. I got Daniel here. Shalom, JJ. Shalom. Redefine Living. Shalom. Oh, by the way, I'm Dan, PhD. Dan invited me to have a conversation with him on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hello, Honesty Angel, Mitchell, Daniel. Daniel. Um, brothers and sisters in Christ. Jeremy Martin. Peter was hard for me to listen to. Yeah, Peter. Yeah, he was pretty rough. Kind of annoying to me. Yeah, it's when somebody will deliberately lie to your face, even if they know it's probably going to send you to hell, and they don't care. To me, that's a horrible person. But we still have to care about them, and he's in the music scene, and so he deals with every kind of evil thing there is, I guess, in the world. So, and maybe it rubbed off on him a little bit, but yeah, but you know, hopefully I'll be able to figure it out, get the hang of it, talking to people. Hello, Jeremy Martin. Jeremy Martin. Yep. Yeah. What happened? In case you didn't know, my microphone went out. I got a little bit too excited and it knocked out my microphone. All I did was hit the switch on my microphone. Then when I unplugged the microphone to see if I could get it to work, and it just kicked me out to knock me out of the stream. Anyway, you live and you learn, and you learn how to deal with people like that too. But it's a lot of fun. So we do need to get their attention, get them into a conversation, show them where they're wrong, how they're wrong, if they care to listen, and hopefully other people will see it too and be able to see, you know, that they're being exposed for the baseless position that they have. That's the whole point. And I'm surprised that surprised and grateful, that Dan wants to have a conversation with me. So I'll just go ahead and take it up. I don't know if he'll let me to do a simulcast, simultaneously do a live stream with the discussion. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I'll see what he says. But anyway, yeah, it was a good live stream. It was a good live stream, and there was a lot of good discussion. Of course, I was little me in the discussion trying to get in a word that was relevant, to the discussion. But then after they all got tired of talking to people, then the rest of us got in, and James Bond and Jason and I don't know whoever it was. I think it was a little bit of everybody, a little bit of Gavin. Um, I don't know. Maybe he didn't get in so much, but it was uh, it was pretty good. I mean, considering. And then after I got kicked out by my microphone, that they eventually dropped it and let it die, which was it was good on their part. And I was waiting for somebody to come back in, maybe John come back in, but no, it's okay. So yeah, this thing about hearing God's voice, I think we as Christians need to do that. Does anybody want to come in and have a discussion? Anybody want to talk about something? Just in case. Sorry I didn't ask already. That was the last I heard JJ. Yeah. Yeah, I can get a little bit um, worked up, riled up sometimes. Try not to. What's up, Daniel?
What's up? How are you, JJ?
Oh, good. I gotta change my setting here. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that was the most uppity I seen you get. That guy was annoying though.
Yeah, he got me worked up. But anyway, I did have a good discussion with him. When I wasn't talking about evolution or whatever.
He was just arrogant though. He was like bragging that he wouldn't. Like Jason's like, I could put all the citations in the comments. He's like, I'm not gonna read them. So it's like,
Yeah,
what do
yeah,
you do with someone like that?
we know they're already not going to listen, and they're deliberately ignoring the facts, and we just have to learn to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating talking to someone like that.
Because in the real world, they wouldn't be given the time of day.
Exactly. That's why it's eh, like they should be. It's like you want to talk to them to expose them, but at the same time, it's like, do they even deserve a platform to be pushing that nonsense?
Yeah, especially when you can see that they're deliberately contradicting themselves and contradicting the science and changing their story. Just goes on and on.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I was frustrated listening to it.
And I don't want to say too much about Dan, but even Dan, John got him on a point, where he says it doesn't matter how it happens. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that.
He was talking about mutations, and and he says it doesn't matter how the variation happens, whether it's a mutation, whether it's a recombination, or a genetic drift, or whatever. And John says, wait a minute, wait a minute. What do you mean it doesn't mean how it happens? It doesn't matter how it happens.
That's the whole point. It's how it happens.
Yeah, and it's only sideways variation, anyways. It's not evidence of evolution. He was saying that how you can falsify evolution.
Oh yeah, how is that? I'd love to hear that.
Well, prove there's he said prove there's no variation. That's how you can.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm trying to say that's sideways. That's sideways variation. It's
Yep.
backwards, sideways and backwards.
It's all yeah. It's either It's either like conserved, the variation, lost, damaged. You know what I mean? Nothing new pops up. Is the point?
Yeah, well, let's see. That's the thing, and that's what I'm trying to get them to face up to, that they can't account for vast amounts of programming by unrelated mistakes being relevant to each other.
It only happens long ago and far away.
Right, and the time scale is just, if you want to say that it does happen, which it doesn't happen, but if you want to say it does, it's just such a huge time scale. It's just totally absurd.
Yeah,
You know,
it is. Everything would be extinct in that time scale anyway.
right? It's way beyond 20 billion years, probably more than 100 billion years to get. And the point is, that doesn't even work either, because everything falls apart before it ever
That,
puts itself together.
that's what I'm saying. Everything would be extinct by then.
It's just totally absurd. And, I'm trying to explain to them that evolution is getting steamrolled and they got to get out of the way. Just drop it.
I mean, one of the most glaring things is like how does a jellyfish remain a jellyfish exactly the same for millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years?
Yeah.
But then like Dan was saying, a goldfish like creature is closer related to a human than a goldfish is related to a shark.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And the goldfish isn't even related to human to begin with.
I know, but I'm just like in their paradigm. How does that even make sense?
Yeah. Well,
It's sad.
they think that we're more similar to a goldfish than to a shark.
I mean, think about the amount of change that would have to happen. It's insane. It's insanity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because variation is not going to do it, because you're only doing recombination of the same thing, and they come to find out that the variation is not even due to mutations. You know,
Yep. Well,
because the mutations will change a slight coloration or a different protein, or something. But it's it's not going to change what the animal is, and all the variation is recombination of the same information.
yeah. Well, that's why I was talking to Emo in that stream, whatever his name is,
Yeah,
Emoticon,
yeah,
and he's like, "Can someone name the limits of variation?" I'm like, "Sequence any creature's genome. There's its limits.
right.
That's it."
And it goes back and forth.
You know what I
Like,
mean, though? Like
like
in any species or whatever, if you sequence their genome, all those genes that are there, that's all you get. There's no more are going to pop up out of nowhere.
right, right.
That's the limits. So
Yeah,
there's nothing. Like we're not going to grow wings. Fish aren't going to grow lungs. It's never going to happen.
right. What you have is what you were given, and that's all you're ever going to have.
Yeah, but I mean that's a clear answer to his question,
Yeah,
right? So that what he said. He
yeah,
said, "Well, what constitutes a new gene?" I'm like, they just play games.
yeah.
I'm like, what? Now you don't know what a gene is? Well, what's a new gene? I'm like, it's not a damaged gene. Okay, it's a new gene, an additional gene.
Right. Right. You
like
got a good point. Yeah.
a human growing wings. That would take new genes. We don't have those genes. We'll never get those genes. They'll never mutate into existence. It can't happen. It won't happen.
Yeah.
And then it's just he plays games.
Yep.
I think like there's certain people that it's almost pointless talking to them.
It is. Yeah. And I don't want to mention names, but Ronan comes around here quite often.
Yeah, I was just listening to him in another stream a couple minutes ago. he is he is something else.
Yeah. No, he's funny.
He is kind of funny. He's so arrogant. He's like in La La Land.
Yeah. I mean, he's so wrong and ridiculous, and
He's so
yeah,
proud
it's
of being
funny.
wrong, though.
Yeah. It's like the badge of honor for him to speak gibberish.
he, oh man, yeah. He was telling everyone how they're scared of him in the last stream. I was just listening to him.
Yeah.
I think he told us we were scared to hear his lies too.
Yeah. We're running from him, and then he starts laughing.
So, what's your conversation with Dan about?
He said just basically anything. So it probably biology, and
Yeah,
yeah, I could probably bring up what you just said. You know.
yeah. I mean, they don't have any examples of new genes coming into existence. It's all stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they look at a more simplex creature, and then they look at a creature with different genes, and then they tell a story about how that creature,
Right.
is the
But
ancestor of that creature, or they share
yeah.
a common ancestor. It's just a story. There's no
But
actual evidence.
so what they say, the only thing that I can see that they say there's duplicate information, and then the duplicate information is altered enough to make a new gene. So so you're going to have unrelated mistakes, one mistake at one time and another mistake at another time, or at the same time, all at the same time in the same place, and they're going to make a new gene.
Yeah, like try to conceive that though. Like I mean, you have genes that say that give you kidneys or something, right? So, but every part we have requires other parts, and they
Right.
all work together. So
Yeah.
it's not like you could just throw kidneys into a human. You
Plus
know
the
what I mean?
immune system. Plus the immune system that has to accept it.
Yeah, I mean it's just I swear it's just anything that has to do with atheism just devalues things. So they devalue how complex and intricate it is to be alive, even any living organism. The most simplex organism. This is crazy complex.
Yeah, and they really don't have a position of their own anyway.
You
They,
know,
could- I mean, they're dependent on evolution, but they can't explain it. They asked me if I can define evolution, and they don't even know what evolution claims.
no, it's change, JJ. It's just change. Like that's the best scientific theory, change.
Yeah,
Well, that's what it is. Yeah, things change. Okay.
yeah. So, and the only way to change is deleterious.
Yep. Yeah, and we have evidence for that. Things are getting weaker, sicker, more prone to disease.
Yeah,
Everything's the opposite. Everything evolution claims, the opposite is true.
it's trying to make a plane go up without a motor.
Even the example, you ask for evidence, they start listing evidence for what we said. You know, it's what things it's losing this, it's losing that. This used to be that, and that used to be this. It's
Yeah,
like,
that
well,
that was the biggest shock to me that they would actually say that something like sickle cell anemia is evolution.
A disease? Yeah. Oh man.
And that's the best example they have.
Yeah, a disease. Again, that's entropy. That's damage. I mean, they will kill you. Actually,
Yeah.
sickle cell will make you really sick.
Yeah, I survived malaria without having sickle cell, so
Wow, that's rough.
yeah, I
What they
survived
give you for that?
everything. I got 50 shots in my stomach when I was 3 years old.
Wow, that's like rabies. I think they give you
Except
shots
that
in your stomach.
no, actually, what am I talking about? That no, that's what am I thinking of? What did you ask for? You asked about
How you survive
malaria.
malaria? What did they give you?
Oh man, I got a mind like I guess I'm tired. I haven't woken up yet. Malaria, I took. It was I was sick for like a week, really bad, and we were trying different medicines, and what apparently seemed to work for me was a medicine called uh, dar, Daraclor, which is a combination of Daraprim and chloroquine or something.
Huh? Interesting.
I think it's chloroquine. What's the medicine that Trump was saying that's
Yeah, I
good
think you
for
get chloroquine or something like that.
hydrochloroquine? Yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, but the but the chloroquine did help me, and I think it was just straight chloroquine. I don't think it was hydrochloroquine.
I wouldn't know the difference anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I know either, but that's what I took was a combination of Daraprim, which I always took anyway, and chloroquine.
Well, thank the Lord, you're still here.
Yeah, that was one of the times I came close to not being here.
Yeah, malaria is no joke.
Yeah, the 50 shots was when I got bit by my pet rabid dog.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was for rabies, right?
Yeah,
JJ's been through some battles, huh?
yeah,
It was your dog. It got rabies.
yeah. It was my dog. It was specifically my dog. You know, I had brothers and sisters, but this was my dog. That for some reason, my parents gave this dog to me, and I liked the dogs, and I've loved dogs ever since too. But it escaped, disappeared for a week or so, a couple of weeks, and then my brother went out, found it, and it came back into the yard. He brought it back in the yard, and I remember my mom saying, "Look, David's coming with the dog or something like that."
Uh-huh.
And so I looked out the door because I was only 3 years old. I looked out the window, saw my brother coming in a dog. So they came into the yard, and I reached down to pet the dog, and it jumped up and bit me on my eye.
Oh, that's terrible.
And I
Do
was
you
3 years.
remember it? Do you
I
remember
remember
it?
it. Yeah, I was 3 years old,
Wow,
and I remember it. Yeah,
that's pretty traumatic. That's something to remember, I guess.
yeah, I guess so. But I didn't. I had forgotten that I remember. I mean, I always remember that I remembered that it happened, but I forgot that I was 3 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And I was at a reunion one time where at school, and I was talking to an older person than me, a guy that was older than me, but that knew me.
Uh.
And I said, "Do you remember when I got bit by the dog or rabbit, the dog?" And he turned to me and said, "You remember that?" I said, "Yeah, I remember that."
You're like a baby, man. 3 years old.
Yeah,
I could just imagine it. That's
I
so sad.
remember.
You're like, oh, the dog's back, yay! And it
Yeah,
just jumps
I
up and bites you in the
remember.
face.
I remember when we moved from another house into this house, that house, and there was like, a little bit more. There was kind of like a yard on the side, and that's where the dog bit me.
Mm, got a good
Anyway,
number. Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Dan's got a lot of factoids. You know what I mean?
yeah. Biology. He's got. Maybe he can teach me some biology, but I'm not afraid of anything he's going to show me.
Yeah. But he'll be good at just spitting out a bunch of gibberish to make it seem like he's saying something.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, it's not only him I want to reach. I want to reach all the rest of the scientists too.
Yeah. There isn't many scientists out there speaking about this, so
Yeah, I call them the smarter ones. Smarter, the ones that know better not to come talk to us.
well, I think is he an actual scientist or he's like a teacher, right?
Yeah, he's a PhD
Yeah.
biologist, some kind, and I don't think,
I think he's biased. Someone said he teaches at Rutgers. It's like down the street, man.
and I don't think he ever used a post hole digger. So I guess PhD post hole digger.
Yeah.
No.
The guy probably lives down the street from me, man. He works at Rutgers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like a mile from me.
Yeah. I used to live in not Camden, near Camden, in Haddonfield, New Jersey, near Cherry Hill.
Yeah. Okay. It's down like 295 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Camden's a lovely place, JJ.
I've been to. I used to go walk down through Camden. It was back in the day when they they all wore white. For some reason, they all wore white, and then like white suits and pants, and it was all white.
Now you
It was
walk down
just
the street, Camden, you get shot. It's like,
yeah.
it's pretty bad now.
I was impressed. I thought yeah, they like to dress up, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know when that was though.
That it was a long. Well, when was it? 76 or not
70s.
76? Probably 78 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yep. There we
Yeah.
go.
Oh, what's up, Sam?
Hey, what's up, brothers? How you guys doing?
Sam, good.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Sam's on the TV.
yeah. I was into that stream for about 6 hours last. If my internet might cut out, it gets weird this time of the evening, so I'll join again if it kicks me. But I was listening to that stream. I fell asleep about 6.5 hours in. So I've been catching up on it today, and I listened to Jason. And that guy Peter was talking about Mary Schweitzer. He brought her up.
Yeah.
You guys hear that part?
Yeah, I heard.
I heard that.
I was there.
And I've read those papers, and that guy's such a clown. He doesn't know what he's talking about. She didn't acknowledge that it was. She all but acknowledged. She said in the paper that I read, it said how there's these red platelets that they're like almost identical to red blood cells, but we don't know what they are.
What could they be?
Right. And then
What
she
could
said,
they be?
"What's that?"
No, I'm just go ahead. I just said
Yeah, like
they-
what the heck else could they be? And then and then they're suggesting the contamination, but how could you? There's no way that it could have been contaminated because they had to cut into the bone. I mean, it just started getting ridiculous, and but it's funny because in the conclusion of the paper, that's where it says, well, I mean, the DNA must last, millions and millions and millions of years old. And that's what these clowns grab onto when you like show them that paper. They go to the conclusion where it says, well, the DNA must last millions and millions and millions of years old. But that paper wasn't about the decay rate of DNA. She doesn't have the authority to say that. That's not what she was studying. And there are papers on the decay rate.
Yeah.
It doesn't last millions and millions of years old.
Not even close.
Not even close. But it's just like, you know. And then there's another decay rate of a DNA paper that I have, and that acknowledged the dinosaur bones, and it was kind of like in reference to it. And then they're basically in the conclusion of this paper, it was suggesting, well, maybe there's like some other way, and so it just gets crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's throw out the science and then just hold on to your presuppositions. You know, tissue doesn't last that long. DNA certainly wouldn't last that long. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no way, and I don't remember the exact temperature, but it has to be something at like, I don't know, 60 degrees exactly. You know, one degree in temperature will change the decay rate quite a bit, either 1 degree hotter or 1 degree cooler. So like in the ideal scenario, perfect lab, perfect humidity, maintained temperature, they're suggesting that the longest it could last, I think it was 500,000 or possibly 1 million years. That's the upper limit. That's the absolute upper limit in a lab, perfect environment. But that's not where these are found. I mean, these are found out in the dirt.
Yeah, some of these are like sticking out of the dirt. They're on the surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like,
just frustrating.
They don't realize that dinosaur bones are found like on the surface, like sticking out of the ground.
Well, didn't they offer to do DNA tests?
I believe that was carbon 14 tests on the bone.
You're right.
Yeah, and they offered to pay. I think they raised, I think at one point it was well over, I'm sure the offer still stands, but it was well over 20,000, and I think it might have even gone up much higher than that.
Yeah, there's a radio show, right?
On the radio show, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And they just wouldn't do it, And then the guy basically acknowledged that, well, we understand how the young Earth creationists would run wild with it, but like, hold on, if you can prove us wrong once and for all, make us all look like clowns, and make 20 or 50 grand doing it, is that a win-win, right? If you're so sure that we're wrong,
she forbid we go crazy with facts,
and they accuse us of hiding things,
right? But I just like I understand Jason's, we'll say the word passion, right? He was
his deal.
Because this guy, anytime you start bringing out real facts, he would just shut down, talk over. But he tried to do it in like a kind, like he was trying to be polite, but at the same time he was just being a total troll,
passive aggressive.
And every time if you're talking about something significant or important, he'll just start mumbling in the background while you're talking to him.
Yeah. And then this full red herring of what was he talking about? That some like evil Bible or something like that?
I have no idea what he was talking about.
But you know what I mean? Do you know what he was talking about? Some weird thing that's in like 3 museums.
It was totally off topic. What's that got to do with it?
It's a red herring. He's, let's talk about something else, because
the language thing had me like, I'm like, is this guy serious? Cats can talk? Is this guy?
Yeah.
Is he just a troll or something?
I mean, you literally have to throw out all common sense. I mean, wait, you can't tell the difference between communication and language. And then he was talking about whistling in the Swiss Alps. Can you ask me how my day was by whistling? No, it's not a language, you clown. You can communicate.
Yeah,
but you can't ask me how my day was. Like, are you suggesting that animals can sit down and like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, there is a language. There is a language, an African. I think it's an African language where they do grunts and whistles. That's how they talk.
Swahili.
Well, so look, that's fine. We have something similar called Morse code, but it is a coded language. It's more than a communication.
Yeah.
Because I can ask you with dots, short dots and long dots, how your day was, what are you doing? It's Morse code. I'm using that as language. But there's a huge difference between language and communication.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think Jesse explains it pretty well that the animal communication is just it's not the same as our communication. It's,
I mean, it's obvious. They're limited on even the sounds they can make. Honestly, it's like a cat. Are you kidding me? Come
It's like
on.
my dog. I've taught my dog how to do some things without saying a word. I can put my hand out and he'll stop. I can point to the ground and he'll sit down. I can point to his dog and he'll sit there until I point to his dog bowl. So I can communicate with my dog, but
Yeah.
I can't ask my dog how his day was because there's a language. My dog doesn't have a language. I can communicate, but that's not a language.
Yeah.
That
Like
was a
I
clown,
think
man.
Jesse said, learned behavior. I mean, that's perfect. That's what it is. It's just learned behavior.
Yeah.
So they could remember those like hand signals or whatever. It's just.
uh,
I mean, it's obvious.
It was so funny because when he was talking about the monkeys and the language, right? It reminded me of this study. And if you give me a second, I'm going to try to get it. But shoot, so it's the study. Okay, it's called, and you can search it. It's called the infinite monkey theorem. And so the theory is, if you put monkeys in a room with typewriters and you give them a long enough time, that they'll write like a
that's
Shakespeare or something.
that's an old suggestion or whatever.
Yeah, but
Good
it's
luck.
so funny because and that's what it made me think of that. So they tried it in a study and they put all these monkeys in a room with a typewriter and the monkeys just ended up throwing poop at the typewriters.
Well, yeah.
So there's like there's the theory, and then there's the reality, and then it doesn't stop there. It gets even better. You get with like the typical evolutionist. So what they do is they create a computer program that you program, and of course the computer program, what does it do? Yeah, it proves that with enough time. Like, you guys are clowns. You can make that computer program do whatever you want, but the reality is, when you put the monkeys in the room with the typewriters, they throw poop at the typewriter. These people.
I'll tell you, the most interesting thing that guy said was that he talked to an alien. That's the most interesting thing he said.
Yeah.
He said he was abducted by an alien or something. I was like, that's probably the only honest thing he said.
He was abducted by an alien, but then somebody convinced him that it didn't really happen.
So I might not have made it to that part. I think I'm still Jesse's still on the stream with what am I, like 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours into it?
Yeah, I actually had a real nice conversation with him. But
Did you?
yeah,
Yeah,
must
I didn't get to that part yet.
yeah, and
that's
then it got into politics. When it got into politics, that just really annoyed me because I hate politics.
Yeah.
And they're saying all kinds of crazy things about Trump and everything.
You know,
And
Well, they're from another country too.
yeah, which I emphasized. You're not even an American when you talk.
Yeah.
And then
Well, he
Ronan
was
says,
just throwing insults at you, like for the first like 10 minutes, but then he was doing that. He would go to Jesse, like Jesse's the mom, like he's being mean, not like you. It's like, come on.
I'm not going to invite him over.
I'm like, is this guy for real? He's like, I would talk to you, but he's a meanie pants.
It wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't true what you just said.
That's exactly what I mean. That's close, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
Have you guys read, I don't know if it's an older paper, but there's a paper on the Linsky's bacteria experiment.
I haven't read it, but
Okay, so the Linsky's bacteria experiment, like if there was ever an experiment to prove evolution, It would be the Linsky's bacteria experiment. So this experiment's been going on for, I think, since the 70s or something like that. And they've been mutating E. coli. And they're up to like 60 or 70,000 generations of this, of mutating it. So because the bacteria, I believe it will reproduce every 20 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've
So
heard
they
of
have,
this.
what's that?
I've heard of the experiment.
Yeah, so they've been mutating it. So they have like 10. They started off and by bringing it, I think it's either like 10 or 12 groups, and then they changed it into these different environments and see how it would adapt or evolve. They're trying to make it evolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, like when these people talk about fitness now, like Erica was talking about this experiment a little bit, and when they're trying to like redefine what the word fitness means. So these things would adapt to an environment, and it would like in a beneficial way, a seemingly beneficial way, but it would come at a cost, right? So so let's say you have 3 people that are running that run triathlons, okay? So all 3 of these people, you guys all 3 run triathlons. So then someone gets this idea. So hey, how about this? How about like you only swim and you only bike ride and I'll only run? And so they start training only in that one field. Now, of course, they're going to gain. They're going to be a little bit better in that specific field, but they're going to lose in the other fields. Does that make sense? Because now you're not practicing something anymore.
Yeah.
And so they would write all these papers about like, oh, wow, they're doing better. They're evolving. They're adapting. They're overcoming. But every time, as we know, every time a generation goes by, it comes at a cost to the genome. So in the end, after all of these years, like we have all of these different, it's the same bacteria, but they're just like, they're wasted. They're trash. And if you ever were to put those bacteria back into a real life environment, they would just get wrecked.
And they get pigeonholed, right?
Well, they're like all retarded now. They're wasted.
Yeah.
You know, like they have
genes and
excelled,
stuff.
but in a narrow sense. So when these people try to define fitness, they're forced to define it in a narrow sense. So it's not an accurate definition of fitness. Does that make sense?
Essentially, if the environment changes, they're dead.
If the environment changes, yeah. So like another analogy would be like if you're driving and you're not going to make it to the next gas station, right? So you just rip all the seats out of your car and you rip the doors off, and you make your car light. And you make it to that gas station and everyone celebrates. Wow, you evolved. Look at that. You've adapted to an environment. That's cool, but winter's coming and you don't have doors.
Yes,
right?
Did anybody see the experiment they did with fish, trying to get them to walk, and they say, look, you learn how to walk.
What?
No, I haven't seen that.
That was, it was a while back, but it's fish. They put them on this little grating or whatever, and they made them try to walk, and they say, look, one fish walks better than the other one.
I mean, it's so desperate.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
Crazy.
It was hilarious.
Those are scientists. Those are educated people doing that.
Yeah.
That's sad. Yet nothing new popped up in the Linsky experiments, correct?
Well, so here's the problem. Like Dan, right? Creation myths. This is an evolutionary PhD and a teacher, right? So if you were to walk up to somebody on the street and witness to them, they might not have as much to lose by accepting Christ. But could you imagine someone like Dan who's paid, like, I'm sure he's paid over 100,000, or I don't know what he's paid for his education. It's directly related to it, right? And he's got this field of study that, like, for Dan to ever come out and acknowledge something that points to creation, he would literally be debunking his whole life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Erica points to theistic evolutionists and says, "Well, look at that."
I mean, whatever. But I mean, this idea, I get what you're saying, but this idea that there's no bias, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, he's way invested into his
He's way
his,
invested. Like
yeah.
that guy, so
Yeah.
he's forced to believe some of these absurd theories, and it's funny because I've got this file that I'm collecting, and it's not the biggest, but it's I call it my absurd evolution file. That monkey theorem one, that's a funny one. Another one that I have is how dinosaurs, and these are real theories. They're not jokes. Okay, dinosaurs farted themselves to death.
Yeah, I heard that.
Hear that one?
When you watch Dan talk, it's almost like you can see the blinders that he puts on.
I'm like, are you kidding me? You think that the dinosaurs farted themselves to death? I mean, how many what would the proximity have to be of these dinosaurs to each other in order for them to all of a sudden, right? Because we have cattle. It's a pretty big ranch.
I think they're talking about global warming. That was in relation to global warming, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know.
The
But
CO2.
how many farts would it take to
methane.
warm up the planet? I mean,
I think it was the methane from them, the herds, like cow herds, and they just warmed up the planet and killed them all. Oh,
what gets nutty is when they try to apply this stuff to reality, like they're out there trying to stop farmers from raising cows.
yeah.
Well, so like my point is, when you talk like Jungle, we were talking. I forget who we were even talking to, but we were talking to somebody about that, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be a professor in August." We were talking to him about the cosmos, and he kept picking back and forth from model to model, and I was like, "No, you can't. You have to stick with one, right?" So, like, if you have dinosaurs that fart themselves to death,
oh, that was Cerebus.
Cool.
That was me and you.
But what would that do to everything else that was living? Would they not die too, or just the dinosaurs? Is it like strategic farting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe the other
Cerebus
animals adapted to the environment.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that guy Cerebus, he was. See, when people do that, when they switch models, and it's like they just don't want to hear the truth. It's sad in a way.
Yeah,
they'll say anything to just avoid the truth.
Yeah, it's like they got blinders. They can only look at certain things or talk about certain things, and because of blinders.
So, and that's like listening to Erica talk was it on the stream last night where she was talking about how things could still potentially evolve? I think they're talking about the webbed feet of a dog.
Maybe I didn't hear that.
So where I'm going with this is we still have all of these theories, like chickens evolving into dinosaurs or vice versa, right? And how these are real. Like, this is a real article. They really believe that. And another one is that cows evolved into whales, or I think the whale evolved into the cow first, and then it evolved back into the whale.
Right, but the thing is why couldn't they pick a hippo or something? They had to pick a cow or a deer.
Yeah, but I mean, so with what we know about genetics now, you can't, because we know that there's mutation rates, and we can see these mutations in the genome, and we can we know that those things can't happen.
Yeah. That amount of change would be catastrophic to any organism. There's no way it can handle that.
And it's
it'd be long dead.
Right, but I mean, but from an information standpoint, you can't go back and forth. And the examples with the dogs. I was talking to somebody in the chat. I think it was last night that he was saying that how he breeds wolves into dogs. I said, well, can you ever take that dog and breed it back into a wolf? And he says, no. I said, well, so you know that, right? So that confirms that at one time we had a more perfect genome, and it's getting worse with time. And that's exactly what you would expect if the Bible is true, that God created these perfect genomes, and over time we've bred information out of it that can never get put back. Like that's literally what we observe. And when I say we, I don't mean like just the creationist. I mean that's science. They know this. But then they
it's consistent with what we said.
Right. It's consistent with our model, but it's also consistent with real science. And these people know that, yet but they still have these ideas. Like I think Erica was talking about these. What was she was talking about these, was it bears that like water? They keep going for the fish. That was last night, wasn't it? She's like, oh, we have these bears. We introduced these bears into this environment, and they're always in the water, and they're always going for fish. I'm like, well, what do you expect them to buy a tractor and like plow up a field of crops?
Yeah.
There's freaking fish. If I dropped you off in the wild and you saw these big fat fish jumping up a stream, would you not be in the water fishing?
Yeah, there's fishing cats. Why don't we have any catfish?
Like, where's the logic? And it made me wonder. She brought up these group of people that can hold their breath for a long time, right? And she suggested that they're evolving. It's like these wetland people. Mm-hmm. You guys know who I'm talking about? They live and they can hold their breath for a long time, and their bodies have been conditioned to do that. And she said that they're evolving. She's like, well, who knows? Maybe with enough time they'll evolve into fish. What? What? And so here's my thing. I'm wondering, and I guess I need to talk to like Raw Matter, the Standing for Truth, and find out like where the studies or what studies have landed. But I would guess, right? I would guess that if I took like one of my, if I had a child, an infant, and I brought that infant into that population, that by the time my infant was a teenager, he or she would have spent enough time holding their breath to train their body to hold their breath and would be no different than them. And vice versa. I bet if I took one of their infants and raised it as my own, I could, at a teenager, I could throw it in a pool and it would not be able to hold its breath. I would guess that has nothing to do with evolution. I would guess it has everything to do with conditioning. Like if you're practicing to run a race and you've been running your whole life, by the time you're a teenager or 20-year-old, and oh, look, okay, so I can even support that, because have you ever seen, this is going to be funny, but it actually is based off truth. There's an old movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy. These tribes in Africa literally run down their prey. They will chase them for literally days until they can't run anymore. They don't use weapons to hunt.
Yeah.
It's real.
Humans have that ability.
Yeah, they just jog. They just keep jogging and jogging. Now, if I was to try to jog like that if I was lucky, I could make it 2 hours. I'd be done. And the next day I'd be sore. It's a conditioning. So for her to say that these people are evolving because they can hold their breath for a long time, I would challenge that. I'd like to see some real support for that. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't
conditioning.
Think so. It's conditioning. Yeah. We know this. We train.
Yeah. They're even saying people that live in high altitudes adapt to the environment at high altitude, and if they go back down, then they'll adapt to that again.
Correct. It's epigenetics. It's like looking at a bodybuilder or a weightlifter and saying, wow, that guy's evolving. Look at how big he's got. No, he's been lifting weights his whole life. Sorry, try again. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, people are so frustrating. Hold on.
Yep.
Yeah, it is frustrating for sure.
Yeah, I'm from the Amazon, and I used to swim underwater quite a bit.
No piranhas got you?
No, but a suckerfish and stickerfish did.
Oh, sorry.
And electric eel. And I was shocked by electric eel too.
Were you really?
Well, it was a small one, but it was electric eel.
They put out like thousands of volts, right?
Yeah, you know what the buddy system is when you swim, right?
Yeah.
Wait, so that you keep watching the person, and they keep watching you. You got to stay together, and you got to keep an eye on them.
Uh-huh.
So the buddy that I had was like maybe a yard and a half away from me, and he jumps up on the dock real quick, and I jumped up on the dock real quick, and we both look at each other. You just get shocked? I said, yeah.
I thought they were in the ocean, those things.
No, that's in the Amazon River.
Wow.
Electric eels. And we have a lot of them. As a matter of fact, the place where I grew up was Purake is the place of the electric eel. In fact, that's what they call electric eels today is Purake, but it's supposed to be Puraquara, which means Puraquara, which means around here there's electric eels.
That's nuts.
Yep, that's where I grew up. So whenever you hear Jeremy Wade on TV talking about Purake, that's where I'm from.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So far, JJ survived malaria, an electric eel, and rabies.
And schizophrenia.
And
You did-
schizophrenia. And Peter.
Yeah,
And
Peter.
Yeah, except my microphone didn't survive. I got knocked out.
I woke up to that. I woke up and I like turned to look at my my phone and like pushed the button and it turned on and opened right up to that YouTube and it was still going. I was like, what in the world?
I've been on a stream that went 16 and a half hours one time. It was Praise's stream, I think, wasn't it? No, it was it Praise?
I
Yeah, it's
remember.
crazy.
Yeah, same thing. I fell asleep, woke up, looked at my phone.
Yeah. That one I
What's your-
woke up to JJ reading scripture. That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Daniel, whereabouts are you in the States?
What's that? We're
Yeah.
New Jersey?
Oh, so you're on the East Coast? Okay.
New Jersey.
Jersey.
I'm all the way in California
Yeah,
with the crazies.
that's all right.
California. Oh, yeah, that's. Yeah,
We span the
you
country.
you need a lot of moral support over there.
Yeah, we got it all over here. I got.
Are you by Ray Comfort?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't met him, but I'd like
Have you
to.
seen him?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
But I follow
Is he
him.
always out on
Yeah.
that boardwalk? Was that Huntington Beach?
Yeah, that's Huntington Beach. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like it when he goes out with his dog.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
what I did though, gosh, what is it? Maybe 5 or 7 years ago was for the 150th anniversary of Darwin, when he passed out all of those books at the universities. Did you know how he did that?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I was a part of that. That was kind of cool. It was a guy that I go to church with. He was involved with Ray Comfort's ministry. So he like was trying to put together a team and I was onto that team. And so we went down to San Diego and we passed out those books on some college campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was neat. Yeah.
Yeah, what college does he go to? Well, he's always going to a certain school. I guess it's by him.
That I don't know. I think he's an hour away. He's about an hour or so from me, which isn't that far. So I'm not sure. There's a few like that.
Yeah, not in California.
That area is really like densely populated. Because like Orange County, San Diego, all the way up into LA, especially North Orange County is all kind of like one city. Like you could drive the whole distance without getting on the freeway. You could almost take side streets the whole way.
Yeah, I've been to Orange County.
Yeah. So that's where he is. And Huntington Beach is kind of a zoo. There's always a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, it looks like a zoo. Kind of reminds me of Seaside down here.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah. It's nice though. I mean, the weather's nice and all of that. But I peel out of here in a second.
So
JJ, do you have a dog now?
I would like to have a dog. It's just that I don't like the idea of. Well, I can't have one right now because I'm in the midst of moving all over the place, and
Mm-hmm.
if I ever settle down, I would like to have a dog. Yeah.
No, I didn't know if you actually had one. Though. Do you want one?
Nah, nah. When I was younger, we had dog, we had cats, we had stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
You're not going to build on your property?
Um, I was thinking of well, see, my property is kind of hard to have access. I mean, I can build right as I enter the property,
Yeah.
but it's on a slope, and I would have to like dig a basement and then build on top of the basement and do it that way, which is what they do. And I could either do that or I could just buy another house or I could buy another property and build another house, build a house or whatever. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Cool. What kind of dog you got, Sam?
The husky.
Husky. My daughter
Yeah.
wants a husky.
What's that?
My daughter
Yeah.
wants a husky.
Oh, they're
Um,
a hair nightmare.
well, yeah, Huskies is one of my favorite dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great dog, but the hair it just grows and falls off. It's like a higher maintenance dog. And they're pack dogs. You know, they say they're one of the older breeds of dogs. So they have to have a pack, and that pack can be a family. But
Yeah.
if you're just like one person, the husky might not be the dog because they'll try to escape and go find a pack.
Yeah, I heard they do. They run. They like to take off on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had one. We had a husky, and he would go out in the woods chasing deer. He would get groundhogs, catch groundhogs, all kind of stuff. And he would always come back, but one day he disappeared though.
They'll run with wolves too. I know a few people that have had huskies up in the mountains, and at night their huskies would sneak out and go run with the wolves, come back in the morning.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
No,
Oh,
I think it's a neat animal, the husky.
Coyotes. I meant coyotes, not wolves.
Coyotes. Yeah.
Go run
Yeah,
with
I was gonna
coyotes.
say we don't have wolves.
Yeah.
We got coyotes though.
Yeah, Missouri, they got coyotes in Missouri. And
There's
bobcats.
coyotes in New Jersey. They're all over.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Well-
re-releasing Mexican gray wolves into Arizona. A lot of the people are kind of upset about it because there's a lot of ranchers out there. Arizona's like a cattle ranch. The cattle ranchers have the rights to all the land. So if you don't want cattle on your land, you have to fence it off. If not, they have grazing rights over all the land. So there's a lot of cattle in Arizona. So they're really worried about these gray wolves. They're trying to reintroduce into the population.
Yeah, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, it is kind
Yeah,
of
that
strange.
became a big problem somewhere. They did that in Yellowstone or something like that. They released wolves, and what happened is they just overbred. Because I said there was too many deer or something, so they released wolves, and now there's too many wolves. So
Yeah,
it's
you
like-
said something like that before. I read an article and they said that the wolves brought back the environment, the original environment. The streams ran clearer and the grass was greener and everything, all because of the wolves.
I read that article also. Same thing.
That's an interesting article. I don't know how that happened though.
Well, okay, so right now the hunters actually balance. The government uses hunt. That's why you have to buy tags. They need to keep track of how many deer tags you get. So because
Yeah.
right now we've killed all the wolves, so nothing keeps the deer population in check. So if they don't let the hunters go out there and hunt a certain amount, what happens is they'll eat all of the grass before winter,
Yeah.
and then they'll die. They'll starve to death.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Because right now the deers they'll keep reproducing, and they won't have enough food.
Yeah.
Their numbers will
You know what's
grow.
crazy? In New Jersey, you're allowed unlimited does during bow season. Unlimited. You can kill 2 at a time, take them home, and then just kill 2 more, take them home, kill 2 more, take them home. That's what my tag says, unlimited.
Yeah.
That's how many deer there are.
Well, how many can
crazy.
you eat?
Well, I don't do that, JJ. No one does. I'm just saying, you can, though.
Yeah.
Well, one deer will last,
One deer will last like until next year almost.
basically, yeah.
Yeah,
I give most of mine away.
1 or 2.
Yeah. I mean, I could only eat so much deer anyway, so.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
can get kind of creative with it, but it's not that great.
I think it's kind of strange for us to eat only cows.
Yeah.
I mean, why
Yeah,
not eat something else beside a cow? You know?
Yeah. Cows and chickens, man. That's it.
Yeah. Well, chickens. I like chickens. But I like to eat chicken.
Everyone likes chickens.
I remember when chicken was like the cheap meat, and now it's become like the expensive meat. Seems anyway.
Everything's getting expensive now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what time is your conversation, JJ?
It's 8 p.m. on Monday
And on his channel?
on his channel. Yeah.
What's his
One-on-one.
name?
Dan.
Hey, what's his channel's name?
Creation Myths.
Creation Myths.
Yeah, just a standard troll. You'll see all this evolutionary fish eating creation stuff, right? just your stereotypical cognitive dissonance. You know, devote all of this time to a god you claim is false.
Yeah, that's annoying.
What a clown. Imagine if I made a channel that was just devoted to debunking Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, right?
Spend all day trolling
Right.
Santa Claus.
Like if someone says they believe in Santa, I don't even care. That's not whatever. I don't believe in Santa, and I'm not even going to think twice about it.
Yeah.
Because I would be crazy if I did, right?
They'll say their motivation is because
Yeah, I would be like, Jam needs help.
they claim their motivation is because we influence laws and schools and education.
Yeah, he's a joke. And that's the thing. Like, hey, look, even if you want to, if you believe in evolution, that's cool. You can believe in evolution, but if you're going to use that to attack a god that you claim you don't believe in, I don't believe you now. I think you're a liar, and that's cognitive dissonance. You're saying one thing, but your actions don't follow.
Yeah, but if evolution doesn't have a basis, it shouldn't be taught anywhere.
Yeah. They should teach facts in school, not fairy tales.
Yeah, just facts. Teach
They
the
should
facts
just teach
that
they don't know. Then, if they don't know, just teach that they don't know.
The thing
Well, you
that
could
the
teach about mutations and recombination and all that. That's all.
Yeah, that's all science.
Yeah.
all the information that the career scientists are using to cure cancer, all that stuff. That's what they should be teaching, not evolution.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that evolution is curing cancer? How many times have you heard that?
Yeah,
I'd like to hear a study on how many people have died because they've had these alleged vestigial structures removed that they used to call,
Yeah, right.
like tonsils, appendixes, things like that, right? Because the evolutionary biologist said, "Oh, those are nothing. They're just leftover junk. Go ahead and tear them right out. They're not even useful." I mean, I wonder how many people have gotten sick because of this ideology, right? Has anyone ever even thought about that? It's harmful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I've
thought
used that
process.
argument against them too. I've actually used that argument. I'm like,
But
because someone tried to say that they use evolution to cure cancer, and I started laughing. And then it's
but
exactly what I said. I said, no, they used evolution to cut people's organs out that made
Yeah,
them susceptible to disease, which led to their early deaths.
right.
That's more accurate.
yeah.
It's interesting because I've never heard someone use that argument in a. I don't think in any debate ever.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that in a debate either.
Yeah, they keep trying to say that the genome is full of
Junk.
retroviruses and transposons and junk DNA, and turns out that it's all doing something. It's all
Yeah,
relevant and
Yeah,
yes.
I
essential.
mean, I want to see a whole thing dedicated to. Okay, you could start with the cutting out of people's organs. You could talk about the social side of Darwinism, all the racism and the all that crazy, disgusting stuff. The Then you could go on to like all the false predictions that have been falsified, the hoaxes that have been done. Like taping monkey skulls to gluing stuff together with
Yeah,
human skulls. I mean, it's just a whole laundry list of just negative things.
yeah,
People shooting up schools with natural selection on their shirts. I mean, just it's terrible. It's like the
yeah.
worst thing to happen to this
Don't
culture.
leave out eugenics.
Exactly, eugenics.
Yeah,
It's funny, Jungle, because someone I was talking about that with someone. They were talking about the endogenous retroviruses. They're saying, well, they're starting to find. As I said, those are all coded regions. There's function in there. I said, oh, not very much. It's all junk. There's not very much. So that little wire that goes from your car battery to your starter, it doesn't really do much either. Go ahead and remove it and
Here,
see what happens if your car will start. It doesn't matter how useful you think it's either useful or it's not. It either does something or it doesn't. Like what it does is not relevant. Does
yeah,
that make sense?
yeah. I had a rat that was chewing on the wires of my car, and it made it so my transmission didn't shift properly.
Yeah, it's just one little wire. It doesn't do much.
yeah,
It's just junk. Just tear it out. It's junk. It's cool.
it's not like the engine or something.
Right. That argument is just so ridiculous if you think it. Like, do you guys even think about what you're saying when you say these things? You just let these things roll out of your mouth because you've been told that by someone like Dan, right? Oh, they don't do very much. But does it matter how
Yeah,
much they do?
exactly.
If you think of
Yeah,
a building process, there's so much goes into the prep of that process, putting those plans together and the blueprints and ordering the material and doing all the calculation. Like, you know what I mean? And then once you build it, like all of that requires so much there's so much that goes into your house before you have a house. And if all of that stuff that they're calling junk does that process, and if that's all it does, it just builds the house or builds your body, and then it's not used anymore, I guess because that process, happens rather quickly.
yeah,
Would you still say that it's junk?
Yeah, I've read.
And that's what
There's
they're
tons
saying
of
about,
articles
right?
about like overturning the junk DNA paradigm. I mean, it's all over the place. I don't even know why they even try that anymore.
Well, it's
yeah.
not junk DNA. In fact, in fact, I got this book by Standing for Truth, and it's a good book. It's full of sources, by the way. And there are papers on that. Those ERVs are for development.
Yeah.
They are for development.
I don't know why they try to use ERVs as an argument for evolution anymore.
Oh, because they have to. They have to explain
Yeah.
every argument that we make. They are forced to address it one way or another.
Well,
They have to.
they used to say that ERVs were just some kind of virus that proves that we're related to chimps, and then
Yeah,
they come to find out that they have all kind of function, and they're probably not even a virus to begin with.
yeah,
Exactly. How could they be a virus if it's necessary for development? It's not like you couldn't have had it. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah,
Or you wouldn't have developed. So it's an absurd idea. It's an
well,
argument from ignorance.
yeah. Well, no, it is. It literally is because they don't know. They don't know enough to make a comment like that,
yeah, like
and that's
Yeah.
why they're being
All their
overturned.
all their arguments. They're
yeah.
assumptions. They're assumptions about they look at the present and they make up a story about the past. I mean, that's every single argument for evolution is a fairy. It's a story. Like you line up these fossils and you tell a story about how the cow turned into a whale. It's a story. You look at the quote
It's
unquote
so
hip bones on a whale and say they were for walking. I mean, it's
it,
just it's just all made up. It's
it's so
crazy.
absurd, and people believe it, like they were believing in Santa Claus, or the Tooth Fairy, or a pink unicorn on the other side of the moon.
Well, like Santa Claus, it's told from the authorities. You know what I mean? That's why they
Yeah,
believe it. So you believe Santa Claus when you're little because that's what your parents they put the idea in your head and you go with it.
but they grow up to be adults, and they still believe the nonsense.
Well,
You know it,
because the
and
same
it's
authorities
interesting.
aren't telling them that it's wrong is the problem.
In order, and you wonder, like, well, how would people believe these things? That's the question. Well, why do you think people believe it? If evolution's not true, why do you think we believe it? Well, if you're not brainwashed since kindergarten, all through your education, grade school, junior high, high school, college, you're literally brainwashed with this evolutionary idea for so many years of your life. It's in the museum, it's on the TV, and then they say that we're the brainwashed ones. Wait, what?
Yeah, we're the
Yeah,
fanatics.
it's
What?
We're the fanatics.
indoctrination. That's what it is.
Okay, cool.
We're the fundamentalists or the fanatics.
Right.
Fundamental means you have a basis. They don't have any basis.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't take someone from kindergarten and just brainwash them, they're all the way up through their education with evolution, like they're probably not going to believe it either because it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, if you haven't heard that since you were little, and someone just tells you that story about like the cows turning into whales and all this, I mean, I think you
Yeah,
just laugh in their face. I mean, it's
yeah,
a joke.
squids on comets and dinosaurs farting themselves to death. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Monkeys typing Shakespeare.
Right. I mean, you ask any farmer or like the guy, the evolutionist that I was talking to last night, who talking about how he breeds wolves into dogs. That's what he does. And I asked him, well, would you ever be able to bring a dog back into a wolf? He said, no. Well, think about that. Just think about that. The information is gone. Think about that. That means there had to be more information in the
Yep.
past. That wolf didn't just evolve all of this information and now in a couple generations it's gone forever. Come
Yeah.
on, that doesn't make sense. That information, it had to be created.
I was talking the speed of sound, and I was saying that the house cat has less neurons than the big cats, and they're less intelligent. And he didn't want to believe it. And he says, "Where are you getting this information from?"
Creationist source.
No, it's a secular source.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah,
Well, if you actually read the paper and not just the conclusion, you'd probably see it. Whatever.
yeah,
yeah, they grasp like RJ and those. That's all they do is like you'll see all the facts in a paper that support creationists, right? But then, since the author of the paper are evolutionists, you know, to maintain their jobs, their careers, they have to tie it in somehow.
Right.
So they'll make up a little conclusion about how this might tie into evolution at the end, And,
Yeah.
and to them, that just totally see, it's about evolution. You see?
And then the news media takes off on it and say, "Look, it's proof of evolution."
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the dinosaur DNA. You know, it's 99% sure that it is DNA, but we're just going to go with the 1%. Okay. And it must have
Yeah, we're gonna
lasted
throw
millions
out
of years.
throw out
Yeah.
all the science of decaying, of how things
Right.
break down and decay. Just throw that all in the garbage. That's all nonsense now because we have to believe they're millions and millions and millions of years old. We have to.
It's crazy.
It's crazy how this paradigm took over. Is what's crazy because a couple hundred years ago, the majority believed in the global flood. You know what I mean?
Oh, well,
I don't think it's crazy how it took over.
did you guys hear that Venom Fang X is back? You don't know who he is? They
I
were
don't know.
modern day debate was joking with me. He says, "I'm the only one that knows who Venom Fang X is." He's a creationist. He was on a while
Oh,
back,
cool.
like I don't know, 8 years ago or whatever it was, maybe even more.
Yeah,
I'm happy
And
to see all these people coming into the scene now.
I've
This
been
is
on
good.
YouTube for less than 2 years. I didn't even know there was. I just never even looked on YouTube.
yeah, there's a lot of people. For many years there wasn't hardly anyone here, and I was thinking, where are all these Christians? Where are all the Christians? There's no
Yeah.
Christians here.
I
Yeah.
always subscribed to Neff. That was like the only guy I knew that when I first went on YouTube. Like Neff was the only guy that I seen like arguing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
debating a lot.
yeah, I
But
would.
since like standing for truth in them, it just seems like now they're popping up everywhere, man.
Yeah, because I would go on the atheist channel and like talk to them once, and then I would be never invited back again. Like, wait a minute, you were all friendly and everything with me. What's the matter?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you heard that guy Tony. He was saying, "Yeah, we've seen Jungle before. He's not welcome
Yeah,
there." I'm like, why wouldn't JJ be welcome there? Like, what did JJ do?
Well, it's funny if you look on that video of the stream, John's stream last night. If you go to the comment section now, Jason came back and he put all those links to all those papers. Remember, he was saying, "I'm going to make you look like an idiot in the comment section. So I have papers to prove everything that I'm saying right now." The guy just wouldn't listen. No, you know what you're talking about. It's just a standard, know everything, hate-filled,
Yeah.
God-hating.
Well, he actually was bragged that he wasn't going to read them.
Yeah. So look, I tell my kids this. There's a big difference between being ignorant and willingly ignorant. We're all ignorant of a lot of things. It's not our fault. We don't know everything. So being ignorant of something isn't necessarily a bad thing, but being willfully ignorant. Like when I tell you that your position is off and I can prove it and actually give you proof. I'm not just saying it, right? I'm actually making a claim that can be supported, and I'm giving you an opportunity to gain this information and correct your position, yet you say, "I don't care, I'm not going to read it." Well, now you're an idiot. Now you're willingly ignorant, and that is a bad thing. And so Jason's getting frustrated telling this guy, "Look, you're off about the languages and the dinosaur bones, all of this stuff." It's like, I can prove it. I have papers on it. Instead of the guy saying, "Oh, I'd like to see that. Let's see what you have," right? Because I don't want to
Yeah.
look like an idiot. So let me correct my position. Not just deny it. Just deny it. Go on.
Yeah, where's the
living it.
humility? You know what I mean?
it's
Yeah.
it's the same thing with Dan the PhD. You show it right in front of him, and he'll just keep on denying. He'll keep on like he's got blinders on. He'll just doesn't see it. He will look the other way.
Yeah. He's
It's the same
forced.
thing when it comes to God with them. It's just like they can't humble themselves at all to just really think about it and like consider it even almost. It's
Yeah, because
arrogance and pride.
they just don't want to be told what to do. They want to be in charge of their own life, and so they'll, at the expense of the truth, they'll just tell a whole bunch of lies.
Yeah. Well, and again, people like Dan that have based their whole life off something. He's got literally everything to lose. So
Yeah,
he's forced himself. He's like a horse with blinders on. He
yeah,
literally has to keep those blinders on. He can't see the truth, or else, he won't have a job. His education will be meaningless. His whole life would just be turned upside down, as opposed to somebody else, right, that doesn't have all of that on the line.
yeah,
Yeah.
More open. But Dan, it's like that wall is big. He's not saying that God can't do amazing things, because I know that he can.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
not saying that.
maybe that's what might happen here. Maybe he will see the light.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Hopefully.
stories out there. There's plenty of stories of people like, in Dan's position that have come around and, seen the truth and literally walked away from everything to follow Christ. There's stories like that.
Yeah, and people
Yeah,
you wouldn't expect sometimes too.
Right. And that's what I mean, about people like Dan, who have devoted so much to attacking a God they claim they don't believe in. I don't believe him. I don't believe him. If he was just Dan, the evolutionary biologist, fine. But like, your channel's creation myths, and you have all these images of like attacking Christianity, that doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
you
What
know
if something
that there's
happened to him?
God, and you're attacking that God. So I don't believe you when you say you don't believe in God. I think that you're a liar. I do.
Yeah, he was
What
invited.
if he had a
He was invited to Smokey's channel to talk about God, and he says, "What God?" He said, "God doesn't have anything to do with the science I'm doing. I'm not interested in talking about God."
Yeah.
creation myths?
Yep.
Okay.
Right. But that's my point. I mean, I don't know. I subscribed to his channel though, and turned on the notifications, so I'll get that notification when he goes live.
Yeah.
I feel dirty for subscribing to
I mean, well, he does teach.
Yeah. It bothered me. It used to bother me too sometimes, but I'll subscribe until I get annoyed by their subscription, and then I'll just unsubscribe.
Yeah, no, I'll unsubscribe as soon as we're done. I don't subscribe to any of those guys, like any of these atheist people. I don't. I'm not a troll. I don't go to their channels. I don't care about the stuff that they're doing.
Right.
I enjoy engaging, but I enjoy engaging with the ones that come towards me or this side. You know what I mean? I'm not like going out.
I gave up for the most part, but I think I'm still subscribed to Raging. He had a live stream today. I went there, talked. Actually, I was invited for another discussion. Somebody invited me. Math Pig invited me to his channel.
Yeah.
Over there.
So
Bath Pig is a little more reasonable than most.
So jungle jargon, like, I'll just throw this out there. If you were to, like, let's say you have a debate, like, okay, Monday at 9:00, set a reminder on your channel that you're going live, and turn it on right when you're going live with a link on your channel to his channel. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm subscribed to you, and so I know when you go live. So if you go live with a reminder that you're being on his channel, that way I can get notified.
Okay.
Does that
I'm
make
not
sense?
sure. So
like, when
I'll just make a thing going live at 8:00. I think it's 8:00.
Yeah, well, no, like, I subscribe to Dan, and like I said, I'll unsubscribe because I don't care. I don't need to. Yeah, but I did that because I want to be a part of that conversation. But if you're going to go live on Raging Atheist channel, just set a reminder on yours, just like you are going live, because then I'll get the reminder, and then I can click on the link and go right to his channel.
Yeah, Math Pig. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
All
Yeah.
right.
Because I'm not going to subscribe to all these people.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll
I
go
wouldn't
there
either.
though. I'll go there, and if you're going to be going there, then I'll, I don't mind doing that. But I'm not going to. I'm not going
Yeah,
to listen
Math
to.
Pig has
No.
asked me to have a conversation with him. I just blew him off, kind of. But
What's
No.
that?
he comes off more reasonable than like Rage or some of those guys.
Or Peter.
Who?
Not as
The
bad as
Math,
Peter.
yeah,
No.
exactly. This Math Pig guy. So
Yeah, because I've been trying to get people to have a discussion with me, and most people are afraid to do that. So whenever they accept or they want to talk to me, then I like to accept as if I can.
well, I think it's getting harder and harder for them because there's just so many of us now that I think they're getting intimidated
Yeah,
and they're getting refuted. So it's like they don't even have the numbers to support them. You know what I mean?
yeah. They never even had a position to begin with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it's
doing it
true. But
wrong.
they had numbers to egg each other on and to pat each
Oh
other's
yeah,
backs about their
yeah.
ignorance.
Well, that was the whole thing. That's what they're depending on or counting on is the numbers of people just to laugh at you, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it's about for them. But you got to hope that there's people out there who are on the fence or something.
There was never any argument. I mean, I wonder if Steve McRae ever figured out relativity in a black hole and the bending of space and time.
Stephen Cray blocked me, so
Yeah, well, I've been blocked too, but I'm not sure if it's him or if it's his moderators.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
But
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
I've been blocked for ages from you know almost all of them.
Like, I don't know about that because I did get in a discussion with Steve, and he made an objection to, I think, the hydroplate theory, maybe
Yeah,
Walt Brown's theory, and
yeah.
he just said he just said thermodynamics. That was his claim that refuted it. I'm like, that's not a claim, Steve. Thermodynamics. You're not telling me what about it. You
He
know what I
thinks
mean? I
that
kept I kept calling him out on it, and then all of a sudden I was blocked the next day. So
the the heat would have
melted
evaporated
everything.
all, yeah, melted
Yeah,
everything, and
I'd like him to actually show me that. You know what I mean? Because all those answers that Walt Brown actually responded to those objections.
yeah. I mean, they make up stuff as they go.
Yeah, but
But
I
oh,
didn't think
that
that
could
was
have
gonna
that
block
could
him
have
or
never
anything.
happened. Sorry, keep jumping. The global flood could have never happened. That could have never happened. That wouldn't
Yeah,
happen.
there's not enough water. That's my favorite.
There's not enough air. If the water covered the highest mountain, what air would they breathe? I mean, for a while there was a lot of people saying that.
I
From
never heard that one. That's a good one though.
I mean, yeah. You know what it
What
is?
air would they breathe?
What it is that the people they listen to say something, and then everybody repeats the same thing. I figured
Yep.
that out because I'm saying, where are they getting this from? Where are they getting? And then I realized they're getting it from somebody that made a video saying such and such, and then everybody repeats it.
Yeah. They're grasping at straws.
Yeah, just ignore all the marine fossils that are up there on Mount Everest.
All over the world,
Yeah, just
everywhere
ignore
there's fossils.
and keep
Yeah.
pretending like everything wasn't underwater at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's
Cool.
marine fossils everywhere. There's fossils,
Yeah,
basically. Everywhere. So it's like, come
yeah.
on. It's like
I mean, you want evidence of the global flood is right there,
yeah.
you're
right,
standing on it.
right in front of you. Yes. Oh, it couldn't have happened. No, it's a part of our history. Oh, that's not possible. Yeah, it is. our history began with the coming off the ark. You know, all
Yeah.
of history.
Ignore all the global flood stories across the world. You know, it's just ignore all the fossils, ignore all the sedimentary layers.
Yeah, and
History starts right after the flood. Just ignore it all. Just
I like to ask the people that think they're big shots and know everything about evolution and geology and everything. I like to ask them what the volume of the sediment layers is around the world. They have no idea.
what is it? Because I have no idea, JJ.
It's more than 100 million cubic miles. Because someone last night they said, well, the volume of the water, I think it was John, said John Maddox. He said the volume of the water on Earth is something like 300 million cubic miles. And he says that's mind-boggling. So I asked him, you know what the volume of the sediment layers is? He says no, it's over 100 million cubic miles. It's, he said, yeah, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. Because I
That's
estimated
more than enough water to cover the Earth. I'll tell you that.
I estimated it was because you can't find that number anywhere. If you Google it, you
Yeah.
can't find it. So I estimated 90 million cubic miles of water deposited sediments. Just what was on Earth. I mean, what was on the continents. And I was talking to a geologist, and I said, yeah, it's like over 90 million cubic miles. Yeah, 90 million cubic miles. And he says, no, it's 134 million cubic miles.
Wow. Did you talk to this geologist on YouTube?
Yeah, it was some geologist I was chatting to or something like that.
On my YouTube, if you click on my page, I've got this rock band, and that rock band is on my property.
Cool.
I have a piece of property out in Arizona, and so my property has one of the tallest like little hills in this whole valley. And if you look at the layers especially when you're driving up to my property, you can see the layers like this giant rock band. And so when you're standing at that rock, like when I took that picture of the rock band, when I turn around, there's just this massive, massive valley. And it must be, at least a few miles across. And there's no river in there.
Yeah.
Where did all the earth go? Where did it all go? How come there's this band that's just stopped right where my hill is on my property, and I can see miles away where it connected because it's the same layer, but where did it all go?
Yeah, I was watching an ultralight video from way up in the air, and you could see he was flying over like a plane, and you could see like piled up rocks and rows going one direction like this, as if it was like a huge, ocean or a huge river, and then crossing those rock piles, going the other way, were rivers. Rivers just cutting through. I'm saying, what made all these huge rock piles in rows like this? It's like
If the earth is as old as they say it is, you would expect there to be no dirt left. It would be eroded. Right. You would only see massive rock piles that used to be hills.
Yeah.
That the rain has washed all the sediment down.
Do you guys watch Ian Juby?
Ian Juby, yeah. I'm subscribed. I like what his
content. He's got good stuff on that channel.
There's these hills, kind of by my area they're very unstable slopes. So they have these massive landslides every once in a while. So when you drive through some of these areas, you can see where it all got muddy and kind of washed out. I'm talking huge, like the size of a couple houses, like big, and you're thinking, when it starts to rain, you see a lot of these people, they'll start putting up plastic on their slopes and sandbags and try to to protect from erosion.
Yeah.
Why would you have to do that? if it's been eroding for millions and millions of years. And a lot of these hills they're not that big.
Yeah.
They're not that old.
Well, I used to say that it was 50 million years would have washed all the sediment into the oceans, and it turns out that it's more like 12 million years.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I can see when I drive through the desert, there's some good sized rock mounds, right? And you'd think, that's probably what a lot of these areas should look like, just big rock mounds that used to be a hill, and after millions and millions of years, all the dirt has washed away and left these big boulder piles behind. That's what you would expect to find.
Yeah.
And you'll see them in some places, but they should be everywhere, especially, like I said, in areas like by this area that I'm talking about, by where I live, where it's all just dirt. It's soft dirt. It should be gone.
Yeah.
Well, they just say it just moved from one place to another. That's all they say.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all they say. I mean, if I understand them correctly, they say, basically, it just eroded from one spot over here to another spot over there, and then just back and forth for millions and millions of years.
Yeah.
So that's a story.
There's 4 major sediment groups in the United States anyway. Not individual sediment layers, but 4 major groups of sediment layers in the United
they
States.
cover like a continent almost, right?
They cover hundreds of miles, across the United States, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that stuff. I'm pretty fascinated. I learn a lot when I watch, like Neff talk about that stuff. I haven't studied that field enough.
Yeah, they're mega sequences, they're called.
Mega sequence, that's what it is, yeah. 4 major mega sequences covering the United States.
And then, like, along those mega sequences across the world, you see, like, it's dotted with fossil graveyards of just, like, mass graves of animals, like, piled on top of animals.
And around the world. There's one place in Africa, there's so many bones, they haven't even started to scratch the surface here.
That's what they say the Ashley phosphate beds. They say it literally might just be all bone.
Yeah.
that just turned into phosphate.
Yeah, where did they come from?
And they're full of, well,
every
kind of animal you could think.
I mean, they argue, no, it wasn't a dinosaur, no, it wasn't a human. Yeah, but where'd the bones come from? You can't even stop to think,
Yeah, it's a sad story. It's the way they teach it too. It's just so screwed up.
And they have no idea what's there,
Yeah. But the way they teach it, I mean, you would think, like, the way they teach it, you would think that you could go outside your house and start digging and you would hit every layer of the fossil record. Like, it's almost like the way they teach it.
Yeah, well, somebody, I think it was Ronan, was asking me, why can't I dig straight down where I live and find gold? Like, what?
What is wrong with him?
Yeah, I should be able to dig straight down where I am and find gold.
Okay. That's an interesting statement. Ronan's a little kooky.
I mean, and I'm saying, well, there might be some there, you never, for that matter.
Wait, what were those things called where lightning hits the ground? What were the name of that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Melted rock.
I do know what you're talking about.
There's a name. Well, kinda, yeah, but there's a name for it. So when these big when lightning strikes the ground, it kind of messes up the soil there, and it creates like a hard molten.
Yeah,
something ice or mites.
Melted rock ice.
It turns to glass.
Something like that. Well, someone did the math.
Not a mariolite. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, well, someone did the math, and they said, well, based on the weather, lightning hits the ground every so many times, so many storms a year, so many, 350 million year, however many millions of years, the ground should be covered with those
Yeah.
if the
That,
Earth was that old.
well, it would erode away though.
But it's
Why
it's
didn't
the
it
heart.
all? It-
Yeah, who knows? I guess that's what they would say, huh?
I guess, but yeah, but why didn't it all erode away?
Yeah. Well, how come the mountaintops aren't made out of them? And would they erode away, or would
Just
the soil around them erode away, and they would be left like a rock?
yeah.
It's fulgurites.
Fulgurites. Yeah, that's what they are. Fulgurites. Where's the fulgurites? I think that was in
Yeah,
a movie.
there should be a lot of them. Come think of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's a study about it, and that's what these guys did, and they figured it all out that there should be tons and tons and tons of
Fulgurites
them.
or something
Yeah,
like that.
fulgurites.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's another evidence of young Earth.
Yeah, there's plenty of them. I think God gives people what they need.
There's probably
He gives
tons of things like that.
gives the Christian everything he needs. So it's not blind faith at all,
fulgurites.
but he gives the skeptic enough to doubt too at the same time.
I mean, how do you even conceive of millions and millions of years anyway?
Yeah.
It's anything
Well,
but God.
yeah, you have to be illogical to believe what they believe. There's no way around it. You have to be illogical to believe in evolution and deep time. I mean,
It takes a lot of faith. That's
well,
for
the
sure.
the only thing I always said the only thing that shows or seems to indicate any deep time would be the time light thing from distant stars. But if you talk to John Maddox, he'll explain to you that we're not actually seeing what the reality is, you know, because we exist in slow motion and in time, but the light doesn't exist in time. You know?
Yeah, I don't buy into that.
Was that like a
Anyway,
time
honestly,
dilation?
I don't think it takes millions of years for light to travel. I think what we see in the stars is what's happening in the stars.
Yeah, but then
I
when
do.
we go to the problem is that when we go to measure it, it takes time to arrive.
That's
But
the two-way speed of light.
that's the same thing as the slit experiment. When you go to measure it, it's something else. It's different.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so what is that
like I
split
said,
experiment? You guys were talking
it's kind
about
of like
that.
an unprovable thing anyway. So
The slit experiment is when you shoot photons through a double slit. You can do it with a. I've done it before with a carbon or a pencil and a laser light.
uh-huh.
It has the same effect. It'll make a wave pattern on the background. But then
Yeah.
when you go to measure the individual photons, it either goes one or the other, and it's not a wave pattern. It's just a straight line. If you can understand what I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain.
but I mean, even if it took the starlight to get it took millions of years for light to quote unquote travel. Okay, that still doesn't do anything to say how old the Earth is, right?
Yeah, it complicates things when time itself is a fabrication.
Yeah, but I mean, the Earth could have been made yesterday. Okay, it doesn't. I mean, it does nothing to prove the age of the Earth,
Yeah,
the age of biology, none of that. So, whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah, Fulgurites. Yeah,
Yeah, the Earth should be covered in glass.
because see, my
Basically.
question my question to the scientists then is which rate of time are you going by to measure the speed of light? Because depending on which rate of time that you're using, you're going to come up with a different speed of light, different rate.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll still be 186,000 miles a second, but your 186,000 miles is going to be a different measurement, and your rate of time is going to be a different measurement, and it's going to change how fast the light reaches. Yeah.
Like I said, I think Jason Lyle, he just says that the only
Yeah.
way to measure it is to you have to measure the two-way speed of light, so back and
Two-way.
forth.
Yeah.
So there is no way to know how fast the light gets there. It's impossible to measure it. So
Yeah.
Well, the speed of
to me,
light's
it's just not even.
not a constant.
I don't think
It
it's
can be
relevant,
manipulated.
honestly.
And I have a
Yeah.
couple papers on that too. Sal gave me a couple papers. I can share them, but I haven't read the ones that Sal gave me yet.
Yeah. Salvador.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the speed of light is not a constant. In fact, they've temporarily suspended it.
Yeah.
And I have a paper that says the speed of light. They've even got it to go backwards, which I don't know what the heck that means.
Yeah. Well, supposedly, I mean, according to relativity, if you exceed the speed of light, then that means the photon arrived before it left.
Okay.
It arrived before it left.
Yeah. If you exceed the speed of light, that's the same thing as the photon arriving before it left. But then again, with the photon doesn't have any mass and it's traveling at the speed of light, which means it travels no distance. It takes no time to travel no distance. So it's already there. As soon as it leaves, it's already there.
So okay, so I'm sorry,
That's what I'm saying. It's instantaneous.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand the concept apparently. So what is this assumed, or what is the speed of light?
It's 186,000 miles a second when we go to measure it.
So
Where we
what
are,
if it's
yeah.
actually 187 miles per second? Then you don't have that problem.
187 miles per second?
Thousand.
Or what? 187,000.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what if it's actually faster than what we think, or slower? Like, what if it's a variable? So you don't have the proton
Well,
problem.
It is a variable because the rate of time changes and the measure of distance changes. That's what makes it a variable. So it can near a hole, it's real slow. The speed of light is real slow compared to where we are, and then out way away from where we are, it would be closer to the actual speed of light, which is almost already there.
So because Einstein's theory is that the time is relative to the speed of light, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, the speed of light is determined by the rate of time. But the speed of light is, when we go to measurement, is always 186,000 miles a second in a vacuum. But what happens if that second lasts a long time? And what happens if that 186,000 miles got shrunk?
Right.
That means that the light, it would take longer to travel less distance.
Yeah, I'll have to read these papers because he gave me two. He was on a stream one night and he started just linking all these papers and.
Yeah, that would be good. It would be interesting.
I can try to put it in the chat.
Yeah, I wanted to see. Remember he talked about the guy that they depended on for GPS to get it calibrated. He doesn't believe in relativity.
Say that
Oh.
again.
He said there's one mathematician or somebody that they needed to work on the GPS, the global positioning system, in order to make it work because he understood, he had the math to make it work. And
Right. I
but
remember that.
he doesn't believe in relativity.
Yeah, and everyone made fun of him, but actually his method was the only one that worked.
But yeah, but they needed his math to make it work.
Yeah. So Jungle, I put the paper in the chat, but you'll probably have to go like on your phone onto actual YouTube and allow, unless is Honesty Angel still in there?
Wait a minute.
I think a mod has to approve it.
Oh, private chat. You can put it in the private chat, can't
No, because I'm on my.
you? Oh,
I don't know how to do that. I'm on my computer, but my paper file is on my. Well, shoot. Let me.
it says private chat.
Hold on. Let me see if I can. Oh, I might. Oh, I might be able to. I'll have to figure this out. Bear with me. So anyway.
You find it yet?
Yeah, I'm having trouble. See, my file's on my phone, but I'm on my computer. So I can go to on my phone and link it
Sorry.
into the actual YouTube chat.
Send it to your email.
You know what I'll do? I'll put them in the comment section later
Okay.
when this video's over,
All right.
and then you'll have them.
Yeah. I got a good diet. It's called the seafood diet. No, listen. Actually, I think it was 30 pounds.
Yeah, I found about 20.
I was weighing 105 pounds, and I mean I'm 6'1", but it was quite a bit for me.
You were what?
I mean, no, 205
Yeah, I was
pounds.
gonna
What
say
did I say?
you'd be dead. He said 105. I was like, oh my
No,
god.
205 pounds, and I think I'm 175 now, or close to it.
Yeah, I'm 5'8", and I used to be like 185, and I was in pretty good shape. Now I'm like 200, and
Yeah,
not so good. Too
yeah.
heavy.
I think I put the paper in the private chat.
Okay, yeah, looks like it. Okay,
All
got
right.
it.
I don't know if I can do that again. I'll get you one more.
Yeah, I
Oh, I
see it in the private chat.
keep forgetting how to copy it.
Yes.
I couldn't hear you before. What is this paper about, Sam?
Light.
And what is the experiment?
I haven't read these yet, but I believe it's about like manipulating light.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one's on light and quantum weirdness.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy when you get into the quantum.
Well,
quantum.
they were talking last night about some quantum stuff that was really kind of like outside of this world. So, did you hear him talking about it last night?
Yeah.
It was like the reality is like a fabrication, or it only exists when you look at it or something.
Yeah. I like that. I like that idea, though. It's like we're like a hologram being projected by God's mind or something. Essentially,
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
yeah, but then if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? Kind of thing. Or
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean
it?
that's
When does
exactly
it
what it.
fall? When does it fall in the woods if nobody sees it?
Does it make a noise? Well, what's a noise?
Yeah.
We only what's you know what
If
is a noise? I
nobody's
mean,
there,
we pick up the air vibrating, I guess.
if nobody was there to experiment, how about if an asteroid hits in a Siberian forest? Does it actually happen? It only happens when somebody goes to see it.
Well, God's the observer.
Okay, there's one more. That's the last one.
So if God's everywhere, He observes everything. So
That paper's weird. That one I did read. And that I believe that's the one where the the university reversed the speed of light and suspended it. And it's from 2019.
Send it
they
backwards.
suspended light.
It says researchers develop way to control speed of light. Send it backwards.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it means it can be manipulated and affected.
Yeah, so I don't know what that does to, Einstein's theory, but I don't know, because Dr. Russell Humphrey said that time dilation in his time dilation theory actually works with Einstein's theory of relativity.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard that. I don't know much about that.
The time dilation?
right. Because he's saying it's in a white hole. In other words, time is stopped, and the rest of the universe is being spewed out while the time on Earth is not moving, while the rest of the universe is being going out of the white hole.
Right.
Right.
So like if time is like a tabletop and you're below that tabletop, then you're in the timeless zone.
Yeah.
So you can have things taking place and you could look at them in the timeless zone and they'd be either going faster or slower, depending, right, on where you are within that timeless zone as you reach the crest of where time is taking place.
Yeah.
It gets really wild. He's very good at explaining it, but the way he explains it, you're like, okay, I understand how that would make sense. And so Dr. Russell Humphrey's model satisfies the Big Bang or the skeptics, right? They can't refute it.
Yeah.
But it's just weird because yeah, it might satisfy the skeptics, or at least they can't refute it, but it still has the same problems is if you look out into space and you're expecting things to be billions and billions of years old, but still be biblically correct with a young Earth his theory works, but it
Yeah.
doesn't explain why we have comets when comets can't be old. Doesn't explain why we have spiral galaxies because those can't be old. It doesn't explain, there's young features out there in the
Yeah.
cosmos.
Yeah.
And so that's why Dr. Jason Lyle, he says, look, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just believe God did it. So,
Yeah, why not? You
Yeah.
know what?
And
Why not?
why does it
Yeah.
have to be that everything came from a singularity?
and that's my position too, because if you can explain everything without God, and if that's your goal, then great. You just explained God out of his creation, or attempted
Yeah.
to anyway, right?
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
they still know it was a hot ball of plasma, and they can't explain where that came from.
God created the stars for a purpose, so it's not like he created them and we waited billions of years for the light to get here. That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, but when I read Genesis, it seems to me that everything was created on the first day, as far as the universe, the stars, and everything.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. In the beginning, God created everything,
Yeah,
the
and then
universe.
the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters, and was dark and covered with water and no life.
Yeah, so I'll try to explain Russell Humphrey's time dilation models as it's kind of like as God was creating these things in his literal earth time process, because time is relative to earth.
I would think so. Yeah, the explanation of the creation of the heavens and the earth is from the perspective of being on Earth.
Correct. Correct. So when people say, well, what time was it? It depends on where you were. No, I think the Bible's pretty clear. It's like we would equate that to a 24-hour, literal 24-hour day. So Russell Humphrey's theory is kind of like as God was creating these things within that 24-hour time, when he would create the space, but he would be creating this in the timeless zone where time is happening at our literal time. But as the things that he created first sent them up into this space where time is happening faster.
Yeah.
He explains it really clear. I'm probably just messing it up.
Well, no, I think it's making sense to me because the rate of time where we are, the rate of time is slower. The rate of time in other places is faster.
Yeah. So like as if God created them and then threw them up into where things are happening at time, right? And so because the earth was created after, it was in the timeless zone, while if you look out in the cosmos, there's time that's taking place out there for that. That's how they can gain their millions and billions of years. But again, the thing that I don't like about Russell Humphreys, which, I mean, it could be right, who knows, is that you still have the comet problem, you still have the spiral galaxy problem,
Yeah.
and you're attempting to explain God out of his creation. And if you're wrong, if your goal is just to appease the skeptics, I don't know.
I don't know why
know.
we can't just have a creation of the entire universe. All the matter in the universe, which causes the dilation of time and distance. In one day. Which
That's Russell Humphrey's model.
but not from a black hole or white hole, but from just the power of God creating the universe.
Yeah, he uses like a dip in the time-space continuum. So he's not using black holes or white holes. And then there's, how does he say it? He suggests there might not be white holes if the things that get sucked into a black hole are kind of bouncing back out.
Yeah.
Like if a black hole has a bottom in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like if you're falling into a pit and there's a trampoline at the bottom of the pit, so you fall into the pit and you bounce out. So as things are falling in, other things are bouncing out.
Well,
Which is like this.
at least from the outside, probably, yeah, because you have jets, you have plasma jets and stuff coming out.
Yeah.
But
It all gets kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much
Yeah,
faith
well,
I'd put into these things, honestly.
That's where
yeah,
I'm at. I don't care. I don't care what people think, and I don't care if they think what. I don't care what people think of me. You know,
yeah.
I think
What
God
I
did it. I
was
don't care how He did it.
what I was thinking is that I think you're right in that there is a bottom to it because it fills up.
Yeah. So then you wouldn't have a white hole.
Right. You're right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, there's so many problems with like Big Bang and all that junk anyway.
Oh, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And same with you know, that's when these evolutionists say, "Oh, abiogenesis, that's not our problem." Yeah, it is, and so is the Big Bang, because you need the Big Bang to create your abiogenesis scenario, and you need your abiogenesis scenario to create your evolution, and
And
it's
you
all
need
a mess.
a biogenesis of programming that's not there.
Yeah, so you don't get to just dismiss it. Right? Like I reject that. Right? You can't
Yeah, it's the whole
dismiss.
basis of evolution, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Like you can't dismiss the abiogenesis problem, and you can't dismiss the Big Bang problem and then mock the Christian because we have a model that addresses those things.
Yeah, and it's a biogenesis every step of the way with evolution.
Right? Yeah, many times
Yeah.
over.
I mean, you can't evolve one cell more or less every creature.
Right. And it's simultaneously a biogenesis every step of the way for every different living organism there is. You know, it has to happen not with just one organism, but every single organism has to be all happening at the same time. So all this,
Right.
all this accumulation of information that's not there has to be happening to all the other animals all at the same time, as it's happened to this one over here.
And you know,
Yeah, I mean,
they found a gene in I believe it's all of the animals. I think we all shared. I don't know if humans have the gene or all the animals gene. I guess I should look into it. But there's a gene that all animals have that's mutated the same, which basically tells us that all of these animals have been created, we would say, or arose or came to this earth, or however you want to spin it, at the same time.
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
So that's a problem. So that's a problem for evolution because you would have one thing that evolved, and then thousands or millions or however much time goes by, and then another animal is formed, and then another animal is formed. So the further back you go, the longer they would have been around, and the older they would have been.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you have something
Yeah.
that is in common with everything, it means they were all made at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So like if the snake was evolved first, then it would have been here for much longer. Or the fish, right? You take the fish. The fish would have been here for the longest. Right? And
Yeah.
at some point they grew legs, and the whale turned into a cow. So the whale would be older than the cow. But that's not what we see.
Can I make a coffee? I'll let you guys talk and I'll listen.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually gonna
Oh.
jump off.
Okay.
I was up last night listening to that stream, and I got up again early this morning. I'm just really tired.
Yeah, I was just going. I can wait. I'll wait to make a coffee then, I guess.
Yeah. But thanks for letting me on. Good talking to you, Jungle Jargon. You too, Daniel.
Yeah, great talking, Sam.
Yeah. Have a
Ed,
good
take
night,
it
guys.
easy, Sam.
All right. You too.
God bless.
You too.
Yeah. Well, it's 104 here. Oh, you're in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's 105 here.
105. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's all right, JJ. You can take off, man. I'm tired anyway.
Yeah, I just want to make a coffee. No, that's okay.
I'm gonna go check out. I think Praise is streaming. So
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe I'll be back in a little bit.
all right, man.
All right.
Later, JJ.
Later.
God bless.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So talked to Peter the other night, and part of it was good, part of it was a bunch of gibberish, and part of it was him not listening. And whatever. Anyways, thanks for participating in the chat and in the live stream. And everybody take care and be sure to hear God when he speaks, because if we want God to hear us, it stands to reason that we should also hear him.